On today's Moving the Chains, a fun interview, Jerel, Jerry Caldwell, the new head man of the Chester Cyclones.
Yeah, Kevin, this is a program that just used to success, and obviously with Coach Caldwell being an alum, he's used to that. Been on staff for over a decade there, played there, so it was really cool to catch up with him and hear what he is going to bring to the table. I mean, again, got to keep that tradition of excellence going along, and it was cool to hear his story and the passion, the fire that he's going to bring to the Cyclones, and definitely keep these guys being successful.
Really exciting to see a guy who's poured so much into the program get the chance now as the head ball coach. But Jerry Caldwell, new head coach of the Chester Cyclones, coming up today on Moving the Chains.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Moving the Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin' Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.
Welcome into Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. Got a great interview today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the Chester Cyclones, Jerry Caldwell. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Doing well, man. We appreciate your time. We really do. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Moving Chains, or our website, movingchains.com, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Coach Caldwell was hired in February. He has been the DC for the Cyclones and on staff for 10 seasons. He's also an alum of Chester High School. Coach, let's start there. What's that transition been like going from an assistant for all the years now to being the head man there at Chester?
I'll tell you, you often hear head coaches talk about it. There's a lot more that goes on in coaching X's and O's. I used to be Coach Floyd's thing. I got to focus on one side of the ball and give me a chance to kind of do a deep dive. Whereas now I feel like I do everything but coach football until I finally get a chance to coach football, which is where something I absolutely enjoy. But I tell you, this is an opportunity. It's a full circle moment for me. 30 years ago, walked these halls, wore the Cyclone uniform, left and went to Georgia Tech. So for me, it's been completely full circle, given an opportunity to give back to the youth, to the teenage kids, to the players, things that people did for me while I was here.
Coach, let's talk about that background. You mentioned it, all-state player there at Chester, being an alum, went on to Georgia Tech to star there and be a letter winner and captain. And but how did you get into coaching? How did you get back into this profession?
Well, I'll tell you, and I always tell this, it's always lessons you can give kids. And, one of the things I talk to kids about is don't be afraid to go after something that you love. And so my last year at Georgia Tech, my head coach at the time, Coach O'Leary, had given me an opportunity to student coach my last semester there. And in fact, it told me, hey, if you want to stick around and coach, I think you'd be good at it. You're more than welcome to be a grad assistant. And so I think I chose the route that everyone else chose, which was graduate, get a job, make some money. In hindsight, probably one of the worst decisions I ever made. Like now I look at guys, Brent Key, he and I played together, head coach at Georgia Tech. Jeff Collins was a graduate assistant the year I student coach there. Billy O'Brien, head coach. So guys that have come through that program with me are, doing some amazing things. And so I felt like been a great opportunity for me. But again, I chose a different path. And so in 2014, 2015, I was well aware of, I always followed Chester Cyclones football, just kind of being an alum. When I was in school, I always tell the kids this, when I was in school, we were in Region 248. Arguably at the time, I think ESPN, one of the toughest regions in the nation. And so I didn't win a lot of games being at Chester High School, but obviously got a chance to play against really good competition. A lot of my good friends, Anthony Simmons over at Spartanburg, D. Feaster, Northwestern, I remember a lot of those guys. And so one of the things I try to tell kids is, I try to tell them around here is Coach Floyd had kind of taken Chester football to a place I thought and wished we had been when I was here, and again, I always tell you can't make excuses about it, right? We were 4A high school. We were kind of in a situation proximity wise, we play a lot of those really good, talented schools. And so we didn't win a lot of games. And so, keeping up with Chester football while I was away, went to a couple games. Actually, in fact, one they played Daniel High School. I knew Coach Floyd was someone that if I got the opportunity, he was definitely going to be someone that I could learn a lot from. And so, as luck would have it, sometimes as life would have it, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2015. And so I used to drive back and forth, and finally Coach Floyd said, "Hey man, if you ever thought about doing this thing long term, you need to go ahead and get certified." And so at that time, I went through an alternative program with the South Carolina Department of Education, got certified, started teaching in middle school, and then kind of the rest is history there. And so I always pride myself on being a worker. And so that was one of the things that I knew, given the opportunity, I was going to make the most of that opportunity. And again, it's been something, no regrets. I got a chance to right or wrong. And that's what I tell kids. It's rare you get a second opportunity or a second bite at the apple. You get an opportunity, something you love. You let the money go one way. You kind of use your passion to kind of ultimately get you where you're trying to get to.
Coach, you've kind of mentioned it a couple times already in the interview, but you're in a Chester alum, man. You're
Yes,
from
sir.
the area. I mean, how special is that to you? Because you can just see it in your face, like how excited you are to be the head man there now at Chester.
I tell you, you don't get many people to get this opportunity just to be able to come back to my hometown and pour into this community. I tell you, one of the proudest moments, obviously, was 2018. We went undefeated, being on staff, state championship, and I always tell people, you don't know what that feels like until you get there and have accomplished that. Right now, Dutch Fork may feel a little differently. They go so often. It's kind of what it is. But I think being on that big stage, and at the time the game was played at University of South Carolina, I thought was huge for our kids. And so for me, I've always tried to represent Chester in a way that people were proud, not only of me, but, kind of exposed them to what Chester High School, the city of Chester was like. And so to me, I don't know if there's a bigger goal or a bigger opportunity than this one. Now, I do know, I'm being from here. I do know I tease people all the time. I know they'll run me out of town too, right? Coach Floyd has set that bar pretty high, and so I understand where this program is. I understand where this program needs to go, and so for me, I embrace that challenge. But obviously with a little extra oomph to it, being from here.
One of the key components in sustaining that success and building a program is your staff. How's that shaping up for you? I know we're kind of later in the cycle going into summer. Have you filled all those vacancies, or are you still kind of working on that?
Staff is complete except one. I have one more coming. And I tell you, people talk about becoming head coach. That's one of those things you think about a staff, but that staff needs to come together, right? You try to pull the strengths take those strengths and the weaknesses of other and piece the staff together kind of like a puzzle. But I am going to make one more hire. We've had a really good spring. That was one of the things I thought was important. One of the things I think Coach Floyd left behind was just the structure and discipline of a successful program. And I think that's for our kids, that's important. So I'm a firm believer, sometimes when there's a change of leadership, change of opportunity, you don't walk in and just blow everything up, right? In fact, I embraced a lot of things that Coach Floyd had left behind. And as I tell the kids, we execute differently, but the standard is still the standard. And that's in the classroom, that's off the field, because I know that's what it takes to win not only football games, but big football games. And so I've embraced that. Even with our senior class, I thought it was important not to overhaul a lot of things, trying to change, find ways, find things. And again, I think as a coach, I always tell young coaches this: when you're on staff, you should be trying to find answers. I don't always agree with everything, right? But again, I'm a firm believer in, Coach Floyd's vision was my vision, and it's my job to help him execute his vision. And so now that I'm in charge, that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I don't think you go in and overhaul success, right? I think you find and you tweak and you add on or take away things that ultimately you're at one spot, you're at B, how do you get to C? And so that's how I've approached this whole thing as the head coach. How do we get better? Where can we get better? And, as the head coach, that's my job to find those answers.
Coach Caldwell, do you mind? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Kevin, but do you mind shouting out some of those guys? We like to hear those names too. And I'm sure they'll be listening and they want to hear it too.
All right. Currently on staff right now, so we have Coach Dave Fleming's going to be the OC. It's coming from South Point High School. Pat Burris is our safeties coach. He's coming from Rock Hill High School. We have Coach Blake Peeler, who has coached with us the past few years, but he's coming back to football. He'll coach the tight end H-backs. Coach Neek Emerson, who's kind of been at different places, been at Vance High School, has been at South Point High School. He is also a Chester alum. He'll be coaching the wide receivers. Coach Billy Keels, who's a state championship baseball coach, who's been at Union County, he's been at Louisville, who's also a Chester alum. He'll be coaching the quarterbacks. And then last but not least, brought back one of these that was around during the Jerel Springs, who played cornerback at University of Alabama, Birmingham, who played for Coach Floyd. He'll coach the corners for us. So I thought it was important to kind of put a staff together, also get some of that flavor of some hometown guys. I think that's important because there's no better way to resonate with kids than to be able to tell the story of, hey, I walked these halls. Hey, I did this. And, I'm getting a little older, but I look at Coach Springs. They may believe what he say. Sometimes they look at me as your old man, but I say, hey, football hasn't changed. You still got to tackle, run, catch, and throw a football. So those things don't change. The fundamentals of the game don't change. But right now, that's our staff. And so I'm excited about it. We've had a really good offseason, really good springtime. Everybody's kind of trying to find their way. And my challenge to them is whatever we do, we're doing the best interest of our kids. That's the challenge to all of our coaches. Don't tell me what they can't do. Tell me what they can do. Because at that point, it's our job to ensure that we put them in positions of success. And so one of the things I thought was important to the success of this team is I'm going to actually hold on to defensive coordinator calling responsibility. So that, again, another piece to create some continuity from the teams that we've had and me being the last voice that our kids hear.
So, Coach, for folks who maybe haven't seen you guys play the last couple of years,
Yes, sir.
what are your styles? What would you say your scheme is really on defense? And then what is Coach Fleming going to do on offense as well this year?
Gotcha. When we went to the wing tee last year, a lot of people around the state like, what's going on? And so I tell people all the time, people call it wing tee and they have these different things, but at the end of the day, we're going to line down and try to run the ball and be because I think that's what gives you balance on offense. And so, we'll have some spread opportunities. We'll have some wing tee opportunities. But as I've challenged Coach Fleming, let's get the ball in the playmaker's hands and let them go. However you do that, is that in a hurry up situation? Is that a line down, ground and pound? That's his job to figure out how do we get our playmakers in space? How do we give them opportunities to go out and make plays? And defensively, I would argue, we're probably one of the most aggressive defenses in the state. We're going to be 3-3 stack primarily. We'll be multiple in some areas. I'm super excited about some of the talent we've got. I've been trying to recruit the halls. We've got some young kids. We've got some young kids coming through. And so we're going to continue to be aggressive on defense. We're going to play fast. We're going to play physical. And, my biggest thing is creating turnovers and then keeping people out the end zone. And so if we can get those stops and give it back to our offense, I think it'll be a successful season for us.
Coach, it's really easy to see the impact that Coach Floyd has had on you and your career. You also mentioned, Coach O'Leary, George O'Leary, who coached at Georgia Tech, one of the most, one of the best college coaches we've ever seen. But who are maybe some other influences on your career? Maybe some guys that you study some film. I know coaches like to take little things from each place. Maybe some stuff that you look at, maybe professionally, collegiately, or other high school peers that have really impacted you and developed your style.
I got, one of the things that I probably learned the most football. Now, obviously, Coach O'Leary is a defensive guy, being head coach. But my last year at Georgia Tech, I played for a coach named Randy Edsall. University of Maryland head coach, UConn head coach. But when I got the opportunity to play for him, he was coming from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so I think people underestimate what NFL coaches are capable of. I immediately, I thought I was a good football player. I thought I was, a knowledgeable football player. But when he walked in the door, you're talking cut-ups on every scenario you could think of. I remember having a cut-up of, hey, they just scored and, it's a minute left in the game. What does that look like? Or, hey, they put, this personnel on the field. What is that? I mean, just stuff that you don't even really think about. One of the things we played Notre Dame, I always tell my friends this, we played Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl one year. And we're going in the game plan, Notre Dame's loaded. And he says, hey, we're going to bring this corner blitz. He said, and every time we bring it, they're going to throw the ball to this. And so literally, he just dictated where the ball was going. And in practice, we always kind of felt we had this sense of nobody can beat us because the offensive coordinator at the time was Ralph Friedgen. So we're literally it's an NFL practice. I mean, you got a former OC for the Chargers, Super Bowl team Chargers. You got Randy Edsel, who is with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we went at it. I mean, at the time, the quarterback's Joe Hamilton. I mean, he finished in number 2 in the Heisman Trophy race. I mean, I played against multiple guys, Keith Brookins. And so you kind of put yourself around these guys, man. And that's one of the things I try to tell our kids. There's Chester, right? Small area. I mean, but football's across this country, and so I generally try to study. I watched these last few years. I thought NC State had a really good 3-high, 3-3 stack package. I went to their bowl practice. We have in the past we've clinic with at the time Grayson High School. Their head coach now is at Valdosta, but they were a 3-3 stack team. So just anywhere we can kind of pull from. And I think effective coaching is what I tell our guys. Effective coaching to me is to see all of that and then, hey, what can we take away from that and bring it back to our kids? How can we be successful? We've gone to Ware County, Georgia. They had just won the state championship. So you kind of try to pull. One of the things that I think people underestimate, at least I think at the high school level, in my opinion, is you see these, you see your Alabamas, your Georgia, you see these schools, bigger schools do some of these things. A lot of that stuff's driven by personnel, right? You got 90 kids on the field, you're bound to find, 2 really good safeties or 4 really good safeties. But I think to be able to come back and put our kids in situations where we can be successful using some of those things, I think that to me is more effective coaching than just saying, hey, here you go, kids, and let's see what that looks like. And so I don't dictate to my kids what we're going to run. I figure out what they can do, and then we adjust accordingly kind of to that.
So, Coach, one of our main goals here on the program is to really, shine a spotlight on some of these great kids we have across the state. Who are some big-name guys that we should look out for the Chester Cyclones next season on Friday nights?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask that question. You do know kids, their names get mentioned in places. All of a sudden, they stop wanting to practice. They start finding injuries. There's a lot going on.
That's right. Yeah, don't pump them up too much, Coach. Yeah, we got to keep them grinding out there now.
I got you. Well, obviously, the one that everybody across the state, the country knows about is Caleb Feast, our running back. I mean, he is a phenomenal athlete. Hardworking kid. We're expecting a lot out of him, but it's one of the things I think about is I always tell him when you're a player that people are aware of, they come in the game to stop you. So, how the other guys around. So we got Jeremy Grant, who I think is a really good athlete. He's a 10th grader, going to the 11th grade, was on JV last year. He's a really good athlete, has worked hard. We got Jacoby Starks Wright, who's probably the utility knife of the team. That's probably not a position he can't play. We got, let's see, I'm trying to think offensively. Amari Nesmith will be back last year. Last year, he went out right in the summertime with a broken ankle, made it back for the playoffs, had a true impact on the game. Up front, and see, to me, I think at the high school level, up front is where you win and lose football games. And so we got Tyler Campbell, really big old lineman for us, 6'3", about 300. We should be probably about 240, 250 across the front, which is, compared to some other years, probably size-wise been pretty good there. Colton Thomason, and then you flip over to defense. Defensively, Luke Reed has been a 3-year starter for us, all-region player. We have at linebacker Adam Lutz, Javon Robinson. It's interesting about Javon Robinson. Javon Robinson a year ago was kind of lost and clueless about football, and we could tell, you look at him, you're like, man, physically, this is a good-looking kid. He can run, he can catch and do all these things. He just did 310 pounds in bench press in a year's time, right? Just not knowing what to do. That's one of those things. Last year, this time, he's about 150, 170 pounds. But again, I think it's just not knowing how to lift. And so those are some of the things I think sometimes you just kind of dial it back a little bit, get some of that confidence and kind of move forward. And then this is probably a shocker for Chester. We have a kicker, had one last year, Gunnar Wells. I mean, he's a soccer kid. He is, I tell you, he's not a very big kid, but he's a super talented kid. We're looking for him. And I tell him, I say, Gunnar, all the time, hey, I remember playing Daniel some of those years, score 7, go back down, score 3, all of a sudden that game gets out of hand fast, so those 3 points start adding up over time. And So, he's going to play a key part for us being able to score. That's the name of the game on offense, being able to score. If you don't get a touchdown, you score points. And so having a weapon like him is important for us. And so we're hoping to get ahead of some folks and, kind of let them put them away and then, go out and play solid defense, get the ball back and let offense do what they do.
Coach, we're catching you late May here. You've been with the program
Yes,
for
sir.
a while, so you know a lot of these guys, but got the job earlier in the cycle. In the offseason, into spring ball, this point right now, what have you learned the most about your program and your team going into the offseason?
I think one thing that, and it may just be me and maybe others, I think we're at a point in life where I realize kids can be super distracted. There are a lot of things that kids can focus on that has nothing to do with football. Football almost becomes just kind of a fun time. And so I think with that in mind, one of the things I've tried to do is keeping them engaged, finding, creative ways to keep them engaged, the work is still the work, them still putting in the work, but doing it in a way where it doesn't look like it's, oh my gosh, I'm dying out here. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be here today. And I think that's important. Obviously, when I came through, all your friends were on a football team or on a basketball court. So you didn't want to go home. There's nobody at home with you. Now kids can go jump on a cell phone and FaceTime somebody completely across the country. So football kind of becomes secondary to them. And so that's one of the things that I've tried to adjust to here is understanding that I want to make it a place where kids they desire to be here, right? And I know that's happening a lot on the college level with all the stuff that, the campuses and schools are buying. And I don't want to get in a situation where we're buying kids to keep them out. I want to give them a situation where we're giving a really good experience. And based upon their experience, they want to be out. And so I think we're there. I've tried to create a lot of competition with, sometimes when you have a changing of the guard, kids get comfortable. I've been here 3 years. I've been doing this 2 years. I stripped all numbers. No one has a number right now. I stripped all numbers. If you want the number, go get it. Right. Trying to create that daily competition of, hey, it's mine. I want it. Go get it. The other day we had a competition between the juniors and the seniors. The seniors have probably been in their lockers, the last 4 years. And so I said, I tell you what, let's put lockers on it. Little competition, little board drills, and the juniors won. I made them go in the locker room and move all the senior stuff wherever they wanted it to go. I didn't care. And but again, that's just to let them know. I want the seniors to understand you don't just inherit the position of leadership on this team. You're going to earn it. And if you can't earn it, we'll just keep going to someone who can, whether that's a junior, freshman, or sophomore. And so again, I want the environment to be a competitive environment, right? A healthy competitive environment, not one where you're creating chaos or, kids are unhappy, but one that I understand when I walk out of here every day, what have you done for me lately? And I think kids are, I experienced that in college, right? I think that's different. I always talk to people about college ball. And again, you're talking 30 years ago, no NIL, none of those kinds of things. So you're kind of playing for the love of the game, for scholarships. But I experienced that. I tell people college sports is not so much about the physical part, right? Kids train all the time. Physically, it's probably nothing you can't do. It's the mental part that ultimately I think a lot of kids end up going in the portal, going home. I quit. I don't want to play anymore. I remember vividly being at Florida State. We're getting ready to play Florida State. And my head coach walks in. He said, hey, I tell you, if you can't go out and get it done, your coach is recruiting Tallahassee right now. He's recruiting your replacement right now. And so you look around and all the coaches, none of the coaches are there. And you're like, oh, I mean, it's just, and that's what he always felt. You don't want anyone to get overly comfortable in their spots. And I think that's where I am, obviously trying to create a little healthiness with it, but them understanding that you only get what you earn. Nobody's giving anything away. And so that's been the biggest thing this offseason. One other thing I think that I wanted to get into, now again, we talk about the distractions of all the other things. I think kids sometimes can have slow starts. And so one of the things I do now is I hit the whistle at 4 o'clock. I control the stretch, and we go straight into some kind of agility, speed work, no time to go from stretching to the sideline. I think that's important because I want to ramp it up. I want the kids to understand that, hey, we're out the locker room. It's time to go to work now. And so creating that kind of sense of urgency for them. So that's another thing I've kind of done. But creating an experience that they want to be there. Because I think that's what you look at your successful teams. I think that's what separates your successful teams from teams who are kind of good 1 year, down 5, is kids want to be there. Kids want to be a part of what they have to offer. And so that's where I've tried to do my most work there, is create that environment where they want to be there and put the work in.
So, Coach, we're about to roll now into that summer 7-on-7 season. As a defensive guy, are you a fan of that stuff? Are y'all going to do much of that? Or, have y'all even gotten into the 11-on-11, which is kind of the big deal here now as well?
Yes, sir. So we're actually going to Burke County, Georgia, June 3rd and the 4th. Burke County is a high school in 2A high school in Georgia. I think they played in the last 3 or 4 state championships. They're a wing T team. But what they do have is a level of toughness, athletes. So I think last year they probably had 9 or 10 Division I guys. And so for our kids, it's a great opportunity for them to see there's levels to this thing. So we'll go there June 3rd and 4th. We'll practice 2 days, no pads. And that's the part I think sometimes in 11-on-11, people are like, oh, you do this with no pad. I think that's the part that kids get used to because you find a level of toughness to them. By the time we leave, they'll be good and sore. We also go to a defensive camp over at TL Hanna in July. In 2018, I think out of the 12 teams there, 8 or 9 played for Upper State. I think 4 or 5 won a state. I think anytime you can put yourself in an environment to be around other, really good football teams. And again, I'll be sitting back and learning and watching and understanding what they do. As for 7-on-7, I think it has its place. I know it's a highly debated topic on Twitter and some other places. For me, I think 7-on-7 gives you a chance to see what you have player for player, skill guys primarily. And I think that's important because, especially a team like us, we run across, your Fairfields, your Strom Thurmans, they're going to have some really good one-on-one players, Clintons. And so sometimes you got to see if your kids can hold up against that. And so, yeah, I think it has a place. And then I think the other part is just the competition of it, right? We've gone to University of South Carolina. I think in the last 6 years, we've played in the finals probably 3 or 4 times. We've lost to Dutch Fork, 5 seconds left on the clock. And my takeaway from that, and I remember it like it was yesterday, my takeaway to our kids all the time is Dutch Fork got the ball down with about 14 seconds. They didn't flinch. I mean, you didn't see a soul panic. I mean, they just went to work. And I told them that's what champions do. They understand we got to make plays. And so you didn't see the ball hitting the ground. Whereas I think for us, we had some young guys, just making terrible decisions in kind of those situations. And so I think those opportunities for coaches to coach. And so I think anytime you can get live reps, I'm not I think some of it's overplayed. I'm not a fan of kids in, Halloween costumes playing 7-on-7. I'm not a fan of that stuff. I think that kind of, it waters the game down. I think it takes away from what you're trying to get done. I'm not into the, throwing balls in kids' faces. Some of that stuff to me, because I think there's no place for that in the real game. And so I think there's nothing to take from that other than teaching kids that's not how you respect an opponent. But I think the actual work, I think is phenomenal. Anytime you get great, and there's some good ones around here. We're actually going to go to some, just kind of still toying around with that. But we'll get some. We'll get a chance to see some others. And I know schools will be looking for us, and we'll be looking because I like to see 7-on-7. Who can throw it, who can't, who can catch it, who can't. So we're not surprised when the season comes around.
Coach, when doing some prep for this interview, me and Kevin were looking through, press releases, looking through these social media posts, and couldn't help but notice when the announcements are made, there's just comments and comments and comments of people giving you congrats. What's that community support been like for you as you've assumed this role, as the head coach?
I tell you, it means a lot to me. And so for me, as I told my principal, there's 2 things you're going to get from me. I'm going to show up, we're going to work hard, and we're going to do things right. And I think that's kind of the foundation. That's kind of the foundation, in my opinion, for success. Because I think, if you put the work in and you prepare, your chances of winning goes up. It doesn't guarantee them, but it goes up. And so my job is to ensure we go out every week. Kids are prepared. We're prepared for the opponent. Kids are playing hard. Doesn't mean we're going to always win. Doesn't always mean kids are going to play well. But I can lay down at night and understand that we've put the necessary work in to be successful. And I think, the 2018 season, and I often reference that season because I think people underestimate what Dutch Fork has done, and your Northwestern's these 2 and 3 times state champ. I think people underestimate what's happening. I know people don't like to talk about luck, but I think that to be undefeated, to win a state championship, there's a lot of things that happen that you have no control over. And I say that prime example, in 2018, we didn't have one major injury, not one. and we won it with 27 kids. That is, yes, you put the time in the weight room, you take care of your body, you do all those things, but not losing a kid to a major injury is a big deal, especially for us where kids are playing both ways. So, for some schools, they lose one kid, it's one kid lost. We potentially lose a kid. We've lost, an offensive player, defensive player, and possibly a kick return. We're affected in so many ways. And so that's one of the things that our kids know. We're going to hit the weight room and we're going to hit it hard. I don't care about being tired. We have to put that time in because we got to ensure that we go against injuries. And then one of the other things you talk about kind of implementing, I think nowadays, again, with numbers, I try to teach our kids how to practice. Because that's important. We had a kid the other day grab a kid and kind of twist him. And I'm like, whoa, that's an easy knee or an easy ankle. We lost a kid last year, Amari Nesmith. We lost him in July. Literally, I'm going to say a freak accident, but the kid's around his waist. I mean, Amari's, rushing to kind of keep going. We teach him to keep going and pushing through, and the kid lands around the back of his heel. I mean, that's, so I think those things are super important when it comes to our kids is making sure that we put a great product on the field. And so being a hometown guy, I know what that means. There's no better feeling than, I think that's the one time I've seen Chester, probably everybody in Chester was in Williams-Brice Stadium, and we took the field and I thought they'd shut the town down, right? And so to me, that's important. That's my way of giving back to this community. That's my way of representing this community. People like to go out and people talk about the Cyclones and, hey, we saw that win last week. And not that it doesn't matter to other people. I think sometimes when you're in it, you lived it, you've been through it. It means a little more to you. And so that's where I am with it. I got a lot of old teammates that have reached out. In fact, the sheriff here, he and I worked together in high school, played football. And so it's been, I got there's a stadium here in Chester, Joe Collins. I got a card from, I think it's his grandson or son, right? So it's kind of come everywhere. It's been full circle for me. And I just want to make sure that I go out and represent not only Chester High School, but the town as best I can. And so that falls on me. Our kids develop them obviously for life after, so they can go out and proudly talk about being Cyclones.
Founders Federal Credit Union means banking made for you. The on the go, the pick up and go, and the I want to go. Because at Founders, we give you the financial tools that make every dollar work for you. For the little things to the big things. For your future and your peace of mind. We'll always stay grounded in our roots, but reaching beyond what you'd expect is where we'll always go. Find out what our members already know and enjoy a new way to bank. Relax, you're with Founders.
Coach, a couple easier ones for today before we let you go. Maybe it's in your office throwing a home game, maybe on the bus to an away game, but what's on your pregame playlist as you get ready to take the field on Fridays? What do you like listening to?
Oh, man. The one that's in heavy, I have one that's in heavy rotation for me is Something to Prove by Lil Baby.
Okay.
Right. I think that, I'm always looking for, not so much as the entire song, but sometimes the chorus of a song or lyrics of a song, something that we can pull from, something that we can use. I'm an old school guy. I'm a T.I. guy. I kind of go back, Dr. Dre. So, I right now I got an old school playlist. So the kids are always, it's funny. I can always tell whose parents are around my age. So I turn something on, they start dancing. They start dancing, knowing the words, and I can find out whose parents are not my age because they're like, what is this? So, but that's at the top of the list. The kids kill me for this. I'm an NBA YoungBoy fan.
Really?
I like NBA YoungBoy.
Okay.
Not so. I tell you what's probably the best are the beats, right?
Yeah.
I am very much now. I do get into some slow music, R&B music. It just kind of depends what comes up. But no, I'm definitely a music fan. In fact, I fuss at the kids all the time. They want to. I'm like, where's the music? And they're like, they have 1,000 excuses. I'm like, look, I like music, so I'm not going to get the music. Y'all need to have the music. So they wouldn't create a playlist. I created a playlist. got two different playlists, and I just think sometimes that energy brings a different kind of energy to the table. So I get excited about the music. I couldn't imagine playing in a 7-on-7 tournament with the old school football. I mean, it probably would not have ended well. Just being able to listen to a DJ play while you're playing that's pretty wild, pretty cool.
That's hilarious. Coach, we were talking off air. You said that you watch our content. So if you consume our content, you know we like to consume some food. So we got to ask you the food question. If we're coming to Chester on Friday night, catching the Cyclones, what are some restaurants that we need to hit up in the area?
Oh man, so you have Buttermilk's here on the bypass, which is probably a mile from Chester. It's just right on the corner. It has barbecue, kind of a full array. You got Chicken Coop. That's more of your fried chicken, fried fish, fried wings. We have the Cyclone, who has a phenomenal baked potato, literally less than a mile. It's called the Cyclone too. Less than a mile. They have a phenomenal loaded baked potato that people oftentimes get around here. Can't go wrong. I think we have the best Pizza Hut in the nation. I tell you all the time. Yeah, there's no question. I think we have the best Pizza Hut ever, and I think it's because of the consistency of who's worked there all these years. So, but yeah, you can't go wrong with any of those things. Now, if you ever come early enough, there's a convenience store you may have heard of called G Mart. They do hot dogs.
Come on.
Yeah, people absolutely go crazy over their hot dogs and sausage dogs. They have like this homemade chili, and so I like to eat too. So when we travel places, I'm always asking, trying to figure out where the good food is.
I love it. Well, Coach, we've hit on this several times of you being a Chester alum, you being a Chester guy. Have you thought about what it's going to be like that first home game coming out of the locker room, man, being the head man there, walking into the stadium? I mean, how awesome is that going to be for you?
I tell you, man, I don't. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough just to probably control the emotional piece of it more than anything. We're scheduling this year. We hadn't played Louisville in almost 10 years. We're going to play Louisville, which is obviously right here in our district. They've been phenomenal in the last few years. We go on the road to Fairfield. I got a really good friend of mine. Maurice Morris, who played here with me, was a freshman when I was a senior. I used to tell people all the time, I was like, there's no doubt that he was going to go somewhere. Just had to figure out where it was going, because as a ninth grader, he's probably the best player on the field there as well. So, we're playing Louisville that fourth week of the season. We're going to turn into athletic alumni night, just trying to get all the guys back. I mean, we've had a run. Coach Floyd has had a run of guys, Division I guys, college guys. I think it's important for our kids to see that, because I think sometimes when you don't see it or it exists, you almost feel like it can't happen to you. When I came out at the time, when I made the Shrine Bowl, I think the Shrine Bowl candidate before that was Eris Young, was like 89 or 90. But I did know William Strong, who was obviously from Louisville, played at NC State, played for the Saints, spent some time around him. I think that's been the success of the Rock Hill era. I tell people all the time, when you're able to open your eyes and you see a Clowney and a Stephon Gilmore, you see those guys, you see yourself as those guys. And so sometimes I think it's added fuel for you to go out and prepare to get there. And I think that's one of the things here I want to do is kind of get our younger population of kids being able to identify. We just had a kid leave, Terry Rafford. Terry Rafford has been a phenomenal football player for us for the last 4 years. When I taught in the middle school, he's about as immature as you could find. But always one thing he always talked about was, Coach, I'm playing college football. He'd often sit and just ask me questions about different things. And I think that to me is the importance of kind of building that sustainability, that long-term growth is, exposing kids to people who have come out of here. I mean, you look at Allison Feaster. Allison Feaster and I went to high school together, right? Her daughter, and I mean, it's kind of a full circle moment there. Her daughter, Danny Strong, the father was at Great Falls, who I thought was probably a better football player than he was basketball. So, I think sometimes our kids lose sight. Devin Downey. Our kids oftentimes don't get to put their eyes on people who have been through these halls, who have gone on to do big things athletically, academically, professionally. And so for me, when I come out, that's going to be one of the things I use is trying to get some of those guys back to talk to our kids and say, hey, I did it, you can too. And so I think that first game is going to be an emotional one. Probably not so much as I'm sure I'll be a little bit nervous, but after the first big play and all, one of the things I'm gonna have to do a really good job of, Coach Floyd on Friday nights, obviously he's pretty mellow. I can get pretty, riled up, and so now having to manage the clock and timeouts and all those things, that's going to be something that I'm gonna have to get used to. Is just kind of staying in that game, in that kind of that CEO moment. Being able to make sound decisions in that moment, still doing what I do, but doing it in a way that I put our team in positions to win. And I'm going to lean heavily on my coaches on that. And I've told them, one of the things Coach Floyd did for me, which I thought was phenomenal, I think head coaches should do. I went to him and told him I wanted to be a head coach at him. He just kind of opened the book for me. Hey, what do you want? What do you need? And so a lot of what I'm doing now, I've seen, for the last 10 years, I've seen practice schedules. Why? Asking why are we doing this? Why are we going here? And he was always an open book to me. So, I was able to walk in with some of that knowledge, which I think is beneficial. And so, now being in this situation where I'm in total control of the, every aspect of the game. That's why I thought it was important for me to keep the DC role in calling it. It kind of keeps me in my element, but also, kind of keep me calm, but also give me an opportunity to kind of at least control some different pieces of the game to ensure our kids are in position to be successful.
Coach, as we close this thing out, what are some goals that you have for the 2026 season?
It's not to go undefeated. I can tell you that. That you talking about stressful. That is undefeated. Is not. Obviously win the first game of the season. I think anytime you can start the year off with a win, that's important. That's super important for me. It won't be an easy task. We're playing Lancaster first game of the year. Lancaster's always going to be talented. They do a great job over there coaching wise. But one of the things for me, I think, is winning their first game of the season. Another big one for me is, I tell you, I won't run from it and not go hide. Louisville and Fairfield on that roster on our schedule. Those things are important. Winning your community, winning those border games, winning those games that those geographical games you got to win. And then I think starting the region off with a win. I mean, I want to put us in position. Coach Floyd, something he's always say to me is you want to be in position to do some things, not necessarily because you can't control them, but put yourself in position to be able to control kind of your destiny. So that's important for me. And obviously, making the playoffs is important. I want to continue kind of the success we've had. I don't have a number in my head for wins and losses. To me, I think you measure growth in many different ways. And so for me, growing from where we were last year, and I thought last year, I think that was some of our best work last year. I say that people look at you like you're crazy, but I think that, we had so many kids that were inexperienced, and to make it to the third round and play obviously the state champions was important for me. And I think that, that was a learning moment for me. Strom Thurmond was a phenomenal place to play. Could have been a little intimidating. The bright lights, the jumbotrons. I mean, it's not often you get to see that kind of stuff. And so I think for our kids going on the road in the third round, so there's some factors there, and I think some inexperience may have played a part. But the other thing I think that was important is Strom Thurmond, in my opinion, was the most talented team last year. You turn the film on. I think the year before we got them. And in fact, one of their kids said to me, he said, "Coach, we didn't know who y'all were." And so I think that played into it. Our kids, we convinced our kids, we don't know them, go play hard. We got a chance to win. But Strom Thurmond is super, super duper talented on many different levels. And I think the state saw that. Obviously, Fairfield gave them a tough run. We're used to playing talented teams. State Fairfields, we play them every year. I think those things are important. Not necessarily place a number on my success, but placing kind of growth. What does growth look like? And we're going to grow in many different areas. And obviously, the record's one area that you want to grow in, but college participation, what does that career piece look like? Points scored, points allowed, all those things that, in my opinion, lead to success of the overall program. And so that's my job. And that's something that I have to make sure I stay focused about is getting better every day. And so the theme for this year is outwork yesterday. And yesterday, I tell our kids, means a lot of things. Yesterday's last year, 5 years, 10 years. There's a change of the guard. Coach Floyd has had a lot of success. He has had a lot of success here twice. And so we cannot rely on what we've done under Coach Floyd's leadership. We can't rely on what past players have done. We got to outwork yesterday. That's kind of, long term. Short term, yesterday's practice is over. If you made 2 picks yesterday or you made 2 tackles in practice yesterday, who cares? What are you going to do today? And I just saw a quote on Twitter. The guy, he used some colorful language, but he said there's 2 days a week you can do nothing about, yesterday and tomorrow. And I think that's a mindset you got to have. And I think it's hard for kids to move on. I think kids enjoy being celebrated. I think kids enjoy all the good that comes with playing sports, but pushing them on to the next page is going to be important. And so it's my job not to allow them to get comfortable. And so every day I try to create that competitive environment where they feel like we can't just settle in. And I think that ultimately will pay dividends for us down the road.
Well, this has been great. I want everyone to go follow Coach Caldwell and the Cyclones on social media. They do a great job updating about their program and their kids. Certainly check them out on there. Like I mentioned, follow us on social media. Moving the Change, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Jerel, anything else for Coach? Let him go today.
Coach Caldwell, first of all, congratulations on
thank you very much.
This step in your career, and thank you for your time today in meeting with us, talking about your plans for the future and what you already have accomplished. As a coach there. We're just looking forward to what you're going to be able to do. We know you're going to continue that success there at Chester. That's a team that we get used to talking about every fall, weekly. Are certainly going to be in the mix. So congrats there. And you can just see the pride beaming from you, as you take this step, being a part of that community for so long. And just want to say congratulations and stay healthy this year.
Thank you so very much. I tell you, it's you guys do a phenomenal job. I appreciate it. When I saw the message, I felt jumped out of my seat because I'm like, I've always wanted to be on it. I'm like, I want to be on whether it's a DC or not. And so just to hear you guys, man, you guys do a phenomenal job. And I'll tell you the one thing I think that it separates you oftentimes from a lot of other people. You guys are very fair. You don't have I never feel like you got a favorite. I think you're saying, hey, this is my research. This is what it tells me. And this is why I'm making this decision. I think as a coach, as a player, you have to live with that, right? That's just someone analyzing the facts and making a decision. So if you guys are picking against us, there's probably a reason. I just don't want the other team. Sometimes I think you're giving up too much information to the other team, and they may know why. But no, I really appreciate it. This was truly a blessing for me to be able to do this. And so anytime, I don't care if we want to sit and talk about whatever y'all want, I'll come on and talk. I enjoy talking the game of football because it's done a lot for me. Football has taken me places I probably could have taken myself, especially coming from a small town. Coming from a small town overnight. I mean, I went from a town or a county of 35,000 people to a city of 4 million people. The Olympics the following year. So like I said, and I tell kids, it takes you places. First time I ever got on an airplane was to take an official visit to NC State, right? So those are things football, I owe football more than football owes me. And so this, to my opinion, is just a part of me giving back not only to our kids, but giving back to the game of football, and hopefully the football guys will take care of me.
Love that.
Coach, yeah, we appreciate the kind words, appreciate the time, man. Look forward to stopping by, practice your game, and getting to meet you in person here soon.
Thank you. Welcome
best
anytime.
luck this season, all right?
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great one.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin the Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin Chains on all social media platforms and visit movinchains.com today.